for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Mr. Mitchell. Here, Mr. Taylor.
Present.
Ms. Rush, present. Ms. Crowder.
Yes, present.
Ms. Buchanan.
Present.
Mr. Bradley. No. Ms. Watley Seeds.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. May I have a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda? All right, so it's moved by Denise Watley Seeds. It's supported by Ms. Buchanan. Questions, comments, concerns regarding tonight's agenda? All right, call the roll, please.
Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Crowder.
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan.
Yes.
Mr. Bradley. Ms. Watley Seeds.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, so at this time, we will have our budget hearing. I'll turn it over to,
Shelby.
we're going to turn it over to Mrs. Shelby Freyer. All right.
And for the board, this was posted on the website, and also it is attached to your agenda.
Does everyone have a copy of the budget in their workbook there? Everyone see what I'm gonna go over? You guys can hear me? Feels like. Is that better? Still can't hear me? The light's on. Can you move up there?
No, but
Can you hear me okay? I mean, I can just talk really loudly too, which is something I did. Is that better? Gotta really, okay, here we go. I hate I'm loud, I never need them. Okay. So the first thing in your packet, there's two different documents, and I first want to say, thanks for having me and inviting me into your district to help. I'm happy to be here and do the work. I do want to say the budget that's before you for both the 18-19 school year and 2021 school year are for the district that were prepared by the prior CFO, Todd Mora, and then the outgoing CEO, Dr. Herrera. So this is their budget that they worked on for the last 6 months. So I'm simply just reading their numbers and their information. So with that, the first resolution we'll talk about here is the 18-19 end of the year. You guys have seen this before, something that every district does. Typically the final amendment along with the new budget get passed at the same time. So in the resolution packet, there's both of those budgets that you'll see. So for 18-19, total revenue is at $28,827,557. And then if you carry that down, you'll see that the total expenditures estimated are $28,824,317, leaving an ending fund balance of approximately negative $4,422,143. So if I've gone too fast, you can certainly see the document. That's great. It's up for the audience to see also. So that's what they're anticipating ending the year for the 18-19 school year. And of course, that ending balance would carry forward to start your new school year. So you'll see in the next document for the 19-20 school year, the initial budget is projected to be the total revenue of $25,282,089. I think I'm down about 2 pages. You might be on food service. Here we go. And then total expenditures appropriated right now are at $25,259,891, leaving an ending fund balance of approximately negative $4,399,945, which is an improvement to the deficit, not by much, but every little bit helps. And again, this is only a projection. So there's a lot of assumptions that have gone into the 19-20 school year budget that obviously could change. So with that, what was really helpful, Todd put together a memo also that should be in your packet. And it's detailed out here. You can see it was dated June 14th. So these are some of the major assumptions that were really driving the numbers for the 19-20 school year. So I just want to hit the highlights. I won't read them all to you because we'll be here for a while, but some of the big ones, as it relates to state aid, enrollment right now is obviously what drives your budget. And so the number picked for enrollment was 1,800 pupils for next year. typically a district would do an amendment mid-year, so typically, December, January, after enrollments come in and you have your final count, you want to make an amendment, which this district has always done every year. So this is our best guess at enrollment. If that changes significantly, it's going to change your budget significantly. So that was a big assumption that was in here as it relates to revenue. Also, the district had a grant, some one-time funding, essentially expire from Michigan State Police, that competitive school safety grant, which I'm sure you've heard about. It was just shy of $1 million, so that's a major loss to the general fund. This budget also assumes in 1920 that the district will have additional revenue of $450,000 that they would receive from surplus property sales. Again, that's a pretty large assumption. So if the board decides not to do those sales, or maybe it's more or less, that's going to drive revenue. On the expenditure side, you guys can see, I think the collective bargaining agreement for the teachers group should be coming. I'm not sure if it's tonight. Yep. So there's the outline of what that contract looks like. And then further down on the expenditures, you'll see bringing custodial maintenance contract in-house from that third-party vendor will save the district roughly $222,000, which is major savings. And typically, too, in my experience, when districts have more control and oversight over a contract like that, or services that are provided, the savings is even greater. So I think that's a really positive thing for the district. Transportation, I'm currently negotiating that contract with First Student right now. There were some things that were open that I think we can kind of regain some control back that would give more leverage to the district to negotiate that contract even further. I also want to make sure there's out clauses so that you guys aren't trapped in a contract for 5 years that you don't want to be in, but certainly want stability in the transportation department. So with that, right now they're projecting to reduce routes, about 4 routes, to roughly $50,000 a piece, a route for each year. So that's roughly $200,000 in savings. And then also for lastly, the debt service piece is pretty crucial. The Department of Treasury at this point, I think is considering refinancing or restructuring the emergency loans that are outstanding to provide a longer payback period, which would obviously provide debt relief to the district immediately. So those are some of the major assumptions that went into this budget. Again, they're guesses, they're not 100%. The district will certainly want to review the budget monthly. The second they have, a permanent CFO in place that can start putting together proper financials for the district every month. So any questions? That was a lot of information and I went through it pretty quickly. And you guys have a long agenda, so I didn't want to take up too much time on reading documents to you. But any questions so far?
Any questions from the board?
No, thank you. We've reviewed it several times with Mr. Moore before he left, and that's fair.
Okay. Any questions, comments from members of the audience concerning the budget?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Just
Can you come up to the table, please?
Yeah. Thank you.
Pastor Stephen McCoy, I guess I didn't see it. It's probably up there. You probably reflected it in your numbers on the attendance. Do we show a decrease in there? Is there a projected number?
Yep, so this year, there was an enrollment audit that kind of screwed up the trajectory that it's typically been. But we had it from the original count last fall, it was about 150 down, if I remember correctly. And same thing for the following fiscal year. So this district has been losing kids at about 5 to 7% each year. So we just kept that same trajectory. So if for some reason you don't lose, that's just additional money and revenue for the district that you could do, additional services with. But right now we were conservative and we said 150 loss.
Okay, all right. But there's nothing in there projected for kids coming back to the district, right?
Correct, yeah, so if that happens, I kind of have it. Yeah, that's a great addition to the district, yeah.
Just 1 second, Pastor.
So, thank you for your comment, and I know that this is an issue that you're dedicated to helping us with, and I appreciate that. Putting together these budgets is very complicated, especially because we're in this weird transition zone. So, what the state wanted us to do was to project down, but we're hoping to stabilize or actually grow. And we'll talk later about, right now, theoretically, we're for another few days, we're still in the cooperative agreement. So we're limited about what we can do until we take over again next week.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Any other member of the audience? Questions, comments, concerns regarding the budget? Okay,
I'd like to make a motion.
yes, ma'am. So we have a motion on the floor from Secretary Rush.
So I move that we adopt both the amendment to the 2018 to 19 budget and the projected 2019 to 20 budget.
Okay, so Mrs. Rush has a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, supported by Mrs. Crowder. Questions, comments, concerns before we take the vote? All right, call the roll.
Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley, Ms. Watley Seeds.
Yes.
The motion passes.
All right, thank you. So may I have a motion to adjourn?
Can I?
Yes, ma'am.
So I want to personally, on behalf of the whole district and the board, thank Ms. Shelley Freer and Mr. Sam Ear for exceptional service. I know that Shelby has helped us over the years, but the last 10 days, they've really helped us miraculously. So on behalf of everybody, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for coming down here to help us,
Yeah.
right, in times of need. It always seems like times of need. I hope that changes, right? So we can just see each other and say hi and
That's
not
right,
worry
that's
about the stress.
Right?
Okay, so may I have a motion to adjourn the budget meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Buchanan. May I have support?
The seats.
Supported by Mrs. Watley Seeds. Call the roll, ma'am.
Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley, Ms. Watley Seeds. Motion passes.
All right, so the budget meeting is adjourned. We have like 2 minutes, so if you guys need a break right quick before we start the other meeting, if not, we'll keep going. All right? All right, so we already did the pledge of allegiance. We already called the roll for our other meeting. So may I have a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda for the regular meeting of the Benton Harbor Board of Education?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Buchanan. May I have a support? All right, supported by Denise Watley Seats. Any questions, comments, concerns regarding tonight's agenda? Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley, Ms. Watley Seeds.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, so at this time, we have public comment. Public comment is for 3 minutes. If you would like to come up, please state your name and address. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Marvin Haywood, 1425 Union, Benton Harbor, Michigan. Excuse me, I'm running a little late at work, but as I come to this board this evening, we're dealing with a situation where we have to put together a strategy that will save the school system. For those new members that don't know, that have not been around, this didn't just manifest itself today. This started back in 1997, when they began to talk about diversity and inclusion. And at that point in time, when they stated in the diversity and inclusion, they wanted to empower the Benton Harbor area schools, they began to outsource everything. They took away the skills center, the trade center, all of those things that was necessary for a child to receive a proper education and be a productive member of society. So as we stand here today, we have to deal with reality, because the show has been going on for quite some time, and it's just asinine
for them to have come with a plan talking about closing the schools when in fact they know that it was this here that's done now was done with surgical precision. I've been following this for 20 years when they began to outsource. So I'm familiar with all the characters that have played a part in this. And for us not to have a team of individuals that refute a lot of the negative information that has been printed, and I speak with you about the letter that Jeff Knowles sent to Whirlpool, that was false information. And he should be held liable for the things in which he said. And a lot of times, everything that's been going on through the media, through radio, has been a false narrative to try to get people to have a negative perception of the Benton Harbor Area School District. Since the inception of Barron Reeser and prior to that, there have been individuals that have, in my opinion, and I'm quite sure that it's right, from Carol Smith to Paula Donnie, who didn't have a degree in education, but was here for 5 years. Then you brought in Mr. Seawood, then you brought in Shelley Walker. All of those people, other than one, were not even from this area. So how could they have had our children's best interests at heart? And when we look at the players, when you talk about a CEO that was brought in, when he came in, he brought in individuals that were not from the community and never had an invested interest in this community. So when we talk about these children want to learn. These children want to strive for excellence. But whenever you have a playing field that is not level and you have forces working up against you that they don't even know about, it's sad, but we have to deal with reality right now. And when it comes to children and having a world-class community, how can you have a world-class community without giving the children world-class education? How can you have entities that we partner with, and I'm talking about when we was partnered with Lakeshore and when we was partnered with Whirlpool, we were in worse condition now than we were then. And I say it because of this. Anytime you partner with organizations that got marketing firms, billion-dollar corporations, they're not going to let you suffer. They're going to come in and find out what's going on and put the necessary people in the right positions so that this can be a success. And then they had them enter into a partnership agreement with benchmarks that they know could not be reached. I mean, they knew this. So in order for them to do this, they had forethought and malice with the thoughts in which they was, with the execution of the plan that they was putting forth. So this didn't just happen overnight, and it can't be solved overnight, and they know that. But one thing, when you talk about $18 million, that's a drop in the bucket. Stay trying to make y'all believe they can take something that they can't take. Because if they would have been able to do it, they would have did it already. But when you're making decisions that's in the best interest of the people, you have to deny yourself. You have to deny yourself. And to talk about closing down language arts and things that you want to, I'm gonna finish, I got one more minute. I'm out of here.
Your 3 minutes are up at 6:19.
All right, but anyway, I just want to say that because it shouldn't be no decisions made other than the strategy to save the school. They shouldn't be making no decisions. And we have to look at the people that we have in place if we want to move this district forward. Because if you got the wrong people at the helm that don't have an invested interest in this community, they will make decisions based on whatever agenda it is that they're trying to carry out. That's facts.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Good evening. I do not have a prepared comment, but I do have some concerns. We are in a critical situation, and we had a student who did a video asking Governor Whitmer for 90 days to develop a strategic plan. A strategic plan involves your stakeholders. It involves your community. It involves the input of those who left and those who are here, as well as your educators. It should involve a SWOT analysis in which you look at your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats, and you come up with a plan, a feasible plan that everybody can work regardless of who's in place. What I'm seeing from recent information is that instead of a strategic plan, someone has proposed that once again, we play musical chairs with our schools. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with closing down schools because that's been going on year after year. And if you want to increase enrollment, the last thing you do is close down a school. That's the last thing you do, because what happens with parents when you close down schools and you close down important programs is those parents say, forget it, I'm gonna go somewhere else. And so this time, I don't know who is proposing that we close down schools. I believe it's coming from somewhere else, because every year, regardless of who's on the board or who the superintendent is or who's here, somebody is proposing that we close down schools every year. Now, the only constant that I know of is Betsy DeVos, and she admitted that for 30 years, she's been influencing education policy in Michigan. And so I am imploring that instead of closing down another school, that this board will put that plan to a screeching halt. And instead of closing down valuable programs, this board will take 90 days, take this summer, instead of having teachers pack up and having all of that foolishness go on. Closing down schools cause chaos. Let's work on a 90-day plan. I have an idea, a win-win solution that does not involve selling off properties. It will give you passive income for your properties. It will give you an opportunity to enhance your CTE programs. It will give you an opportunity to satisfy the business community. But you have to give us time to share that plan with you and work through those details. And we can have a viable partnership with both the state, the local government, and this school. And it will be a win-win situation in which the only people who will have a problem with this plan are land grabbers. But I'm asking you not to sell off the property, not to close the schools, and give us an opportunity to share that plan with you, because it is a win-win situation and it will give this district passive income. And I'm in agreement about Jeff No. He needs to retract that statement, and I'm asking that you have your attorneys give a cease and desist letter to all of those organizations that are publicly giving false data about our students. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question. So,
Yes.
because I don't know what information that is. So what was, I mean, where did the information come from, or what was said?
Which information, what are you
He
talking about?
mentioned the information from Mr. Knowles, so.
Okay, so Mr. Knoll, he indicated that he wrote a letter to his Whirlpool employees at the end of May. And in that letter, it indicated that 0% of our 11th graders were college ready, which is false, which is on its face false. In fact, the Michigan government website that had that data on it had to change that data. They had to change those numbers. So that was in a recent publication. Their numbers are still wrong. So even if you look on like greatschools.org, their numbers reflect us having even more students college ready. I find that very troubling, because Whirlpool works with the Boys and Girls Club, and the Boys and Girls Club professes to have students college ready. That's a part of their objectives. And so Whirlpool receives those annual reports, and they know about our student success. And so for him to report that is a problem.
Okay, thank you so much.
And I'm happy to share that link with you.
Yes, ma'am.
Ronaldo Triplet, Denver, Michigan. First of all, I want to say I'm praying for you. Seriously, this is some serious work that you're doing, and it comes with some very serious consequences. And I hope that you keep that in mind. It just amazes me how. Well, one thing I want to just preface this with, it just don't fly, let it fly. But it just amazes me. I'll never waver in my commitment to the Harvard area schools and my love for my community and our school district, our children in its entirety. So I've had an opportunity to sit here down through the years, was educated here from kindergarten all the way to high school. I made a personal choice to come home. And so I've seen it all. Some of you all have been here longer than others. Some of you all have sat in these seats and you've been a part of all of this, or you've been privy to all of it. And it kind of bothers me when I see people from the state treasury, from the Michigan Department of Education, just moving in and out, and in and out, and in and out. And so as the board changes, people don't know who these people are and what these people are doing and what they've done internally. One thing that I want to say, as a community, we have not been good watchmen. We've been distracted. We have dogged one another. We have gone against one another. We've done a lot of things to one another. And as a result of this, our children have truly suffered. And I want to read this when I go to my seat, because there are people here who are in places and spaces to be able to really let the board know, their board members. You might want to research it. The Whistleblower Protection Act of 1989, as amended, is a United States federal law that protects federal whistleblowers who work for the government and report the possible existence of an activity constituting a violation of law, rules, or regulations, for mismanagement, gross waste of funds, abuse of authority, or a substantial and specific danger to public health and safety. A federal agency violates the Whistleblower Protection Act if the agency authorities take or threaten to take retaliatory personal actions against any employee or applicant because of disclosure of information by that employee or applicant. I just want to put this out in the atmosphere. You need to research it. You need to talk to our board. And you all need to talk amongst yourselves using this act so that we can move forward. This bullying, this pressure, this lack of integrity, and this dismantling from those people that you guys are going to have to start dealing with all over again. All over again. And I think that I don't know how, when, or where you'll be able to do that, but this board needs to have some conversations with some people in this community who are victims. Not only our children, but there are some adults, professional adults, who've been victims and victimized as a result of this food. So again, I wish you all the very best. We will be working. Our alumni association will be working. It's nothing personal. We have talked about the state. We've talked about the government, the governor. Now it's time for us to have some serious conversation about one another. I don't know what room we can go in to work it out. When we come out, we need to come out as tigers.
All right.
Praying for you.
Thank you, Mr. Tristan. Any other comments from the audience, public participation?
Pastor Steve McCoy, the Harlem residents. First of all, let me tell you that we are again supporting this board in the efforts, endeavor to come up with whatever ideal plan that they need to come up with. We have drafted a letter that we're going to send to the religious community, asking for our pastors to still stand firm and unified in supporting this board and their efforts. And also, in that letter, we're stating to them, and I want to state to the entire community, that we cannot rely on our state officials nor our government to help us out of this situation. It's going to take the leadership of this city and the leadership of this board in order for us to come out of the situation that we're in. And the only way that we're going to be able to do that is have our kids come back to the district. As I looked at the numbers, as our children have left the district, there's 2 districts that would go under within 1 year if our kids come back. And I was wondering in my mind, how would the state handle those two districts, if our kids was to come back from those two districts, would they take them through the same rhetoric or the same confusion that they're causing in our community? And this is what they have caused: chaos, confusion, and frustration. If the governor office really serious about working with this district, and I'm just going to put this out there, it looked like to me they will wait until this board put people in place that can help them devise a plan and a curriculum that will be satisfying to the state. Why put this board under such pressure and time limit in order to do this? This is unfair to you. So I really don't believe that this governor is working in the best interest of our district. The reason why I say that is because they're using the same playbook that the previous administration had used in other districts. I have talked to state representatives from Easton, and he have advised me that the same thing that's happening here happened there. The only difference is that they waited until the end of the consent agreement to close Easton. So we're working with you. We need for you, this board, is to stop the bleeding. How do we stop the bleeding? The citizens need to hear from you. Information needs to be sent out from this board, letting the citizens know, letting the parents know that Benton Harbor area schools will be up and running full force in the year of 1920 and 2021. They need to hear that from you. Parents is on the bubble. They're talking to us. They don't know what to do. They don't know there's going to be a district here. They don't know what the governor is going to do. It's hard for us to convince them of what they need to do when they have not heard from you. You need to send out information. You need to let these parents know that this district will be operating for the next 2 years. So we can start talking to these parents, telling these parents, you don't have anything to worry about. Come back to Benton Harbor and your child will be educated. And we have to understand, with all of the naysayers, with all of the advertisement, with all of the negativity that's being thrown out there, we know there's a greater force behind this. So I'm here just to encourage you and let you know that we're in your corner. We're here to work with you and also to do whatever we can do to help keep this district, to help the Benton Harbor Tigers stay in existence. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Can I comment?
Yes, ma'am.
So Reverend McCoy, thank you very much. And I think the board unanimously agrees with what you recommend. We're still in this weird spot where the state is in charge until Friday. And so we can't really say much. Hopefully we will have a decision and a some new kind of agreement in the next few days. And then, yes, we intend to vigorously go forward and have all kinds of advice from people in the community. So we are working very hard to keep things moving.
And we're working with you. I just think that the governor's office is not treating fair.
Right.
Amen.
Agreed.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
And if I get a chance to talk to them, I will let them know personally they're not treating this board, this district fair.
Thank you.
Them too.
All right, any other comments from the public? Okay, thank you. At this time, I need a motion for the approval of minutes from our town hall, June 4th, special meeting, June 5th, closed session, June 5th, regular meeting, June 6th, special meeting, June 10th, special meeting, June 14th, and closed session, June 14th, 2019. May I have a motion?
motion that you approve the minutes.
All right, so we have a motion from Mrs. Crowder. We have, I think I heard the support from Ms. Buchanan.
Yes.
All right, so I'll give you guys time to peruse your documents to see if any questions, comments, or discrepancies you see. So if you're done with the closed session minutes, we have to pass those back in. We can't keep those. And if you have your PC open, you can look at the other minutes if you need to.
All good. All that.
All right, so any questions, comments, concerns on all of the minutes presented? You still have time to go back on your PC if you need to look at those. If not, we'll call the roll.
Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes, Ms. Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley, Ms. Watley Seats. All the minutes are accepted as approved. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So at this time, we have a closed session, should be kind of brief, I guess. Closed session for employee evaluation and also attorney-client privilege. May I have a motion to go into closed session for employee evaluation and attorney-client privilege conversation? So we have a motion by Ms. Buchanan. I heard a voice, a second by Ms. Seeds. Any questions, comments, concerns before we take the roll? Secretary?
Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes, Ms. Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yeah.
Mr. Bradley, Ms. Watley Seats. Yes.
All right, so at this time, 6:39, the board is going into closed session. We'll be back momentarily. session. All right, we have a motion by Ms. Buchanan. May I have a support? All right, supported by Mrs. Crowder. Secretary?
Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley, Ms. Watley Seeds.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, so we're back into open session at 7:04. Mr. Mitchell was gonna go over facilities.
Do we
He's not
want to do
present.
our motion? Or wait
No,
till we get
we'll
to
do that under other.
Okay.
So is there anyone else here that can talk for facilities, Mr. Mitchell's portion? If not, we can just go on to HR.
I just go on.
All right, so Mrs. Watley Seats, would you just give us an update on human resources?
Oh, hi, how is everybody? Okay, here, I'm here to tell you about the,
Have your mic on?
do I need a mic on? Can you guys hear me? I think I talk loud enough. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, we have good news. We have some really good news, okay? So we're here to let you know that 45 out of 97 of our teachers, this includes teachers, a few instructional facilitators, a few administrators, which teach as well. 45 out of those 97 qualify for merit pay. We just want you guys to know that. That's all I have to say about that.
That's good news.
It is good news.
Yeah.
Excellent news.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, do you guys have a report on hiring or anything?
Yes, you guys can talk to the employment of instructional staff and the resignation of administration staff, and also resignation of instructional staff, resignation of parapro, and also non-bargaining staff.
Hello,
Yes, ma'am.
Elizabeth Gale, Human Resources. Elizabeth Gale, Human Resources. Would you like to vote on each thing separately or everything together?
Yeah.
For employment of instructional staff, it is our recommendation for the board to accept the employment of the instructional staff, third grade teacher at International Academy and Hall. Resignation of administrative staff. For the board's consideration to accept the resignation of the administrative staff, assistant principal at the high school, principal at the Discovery Enrichment Center. Resignation of instructional staff, math teacher at Benton Harbor High School, social studies teacher at ACA, academic interventionist at International Academy at Hall, another academic interventionist at International Academy at Hall, third grade teacher at Global Dual Language, pre-K special education teacher at Discovery Enrichment Center. Resignation of paraprofessional staff, special education paraprofessional at MLK. Resignation of non-bargaining staff, success coach at ACA. It is our recommendation that the Benton Harbor Area School Board of Education votes to accept the resignation of the staff that we just mentioned, and also accept the hiring of one position at this time.
Okay, thank you so much. So may I have a motion for the approval of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 staff reports from Human Resources? All right, so I have a motion from Mrs. Denise Watley Seats and a support from Lou Buchanan. Any questions, comments, concerns about those 5 resolutions? All right, Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley, Ms. Wiley Seeds.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next, we have approval of a tentative labor agreement, and a Michigan Education Association contract. Are you guys going to speak to that as well, Trish or?
Okay, thank you, Board, Mr. Vice President. So we do have a summary for you for the tentative agreement. We did, our teams met with the Ben Harbor Education Union on several occasions, and we come up with an agreement. So the subject is the agreement between Ben Harbor Education Association and Ben Harbor Area Schools District. For the reason, Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education, to review the tentative agreement between the Benton Harbor Education Association and Benton Harbor Area Schools. The board policy is referenced, and our recommendation is that Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education votes to approve the June 2019 tentative agreement between the Benton Harbor Education Association, MEA, NEA, and the Benton Harbor Area Schools District as presented.
Thank you, madam. May I have a motion for the approval of staff report for the tentative agreement between Ben Harbor Area Schools Association, MEA, NEA, and Ben Harbor School District?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Russ, supported by Ms. Buchanan. Questions, comments, concerns regarding the tentative agreement? All right.
Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley, Ms. Wiley Seeds.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Mrs. Robinson, Neola policies.
So, periodically the Neola policies are updated, and you have in front of you the comments from Neola regarding the changes that were made, revisions that were required. You also have attached in the summary a list of all the policies that were revised in Neola.
So if you guys need to, we'll give you time to look over that documentation. That's that thick package. You guys need any time, or you already reviewed it?
Reviewed.
So, Mrs. Robinson, did you want me to do the curriculum committee, or you want me to do it? Okay.
Do you want me to read this action
So,
first?
do we need to have an approval of this thing or no?
Yeah, I was just letting you guys look at those documents and before you come to a board meeting too, right? You already have those documents in advance that you can always look over, right? And so then when you get to the table, it can just be questions or concerns that you may have.
Okay.
All right, so.
What's this to us?
Yes. Yes, Susan sent it to you, that's okay. You get used to it.
You want me to read the action?
So we can, yes, ma'am.
So, Mr. Vice President, I move adoption or approval of the Neola policies to be added to the Benton Harbor Area Schools policy book.
I think you need to read your required actions.
Yes.
Okay, Yes, ma'am.
Our recommendation is that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education votes to approve the Benton Harbor Area Schools new and updated Neola policies as presented.
All right, thank you. And so we already have a motion from Mrs. Rush. Do we have a support? All right, support from Mrs. Denise Watley Seats. Any questions, comments, concerns before we call the roll? All right, Madam Secretary?
Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley, Ms. Watley Seats. Motion passes.
Okay, so, we met, I'm the chair of the curriculum committee, but I don't do anything. I just sit back and we talk about, what's needed. So we talked about K through 5 math, intervention. And it was, math 180, I believe. And so the district wants to go to math 180. And so the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education approves the Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt, K-8 math intervention programs, Go Math, Math 180, and embedded professional development for a sum of $241,104.73. Any questions, concerns or comments before we call the roll? All right, so I need a motion for the approval of the Math 180 curriculum.
So moved.
All right, moved by Ms. Buchanan. May I have a support?
Support.
All right, support, and that came from you, Ms.
Rush.
Ms. Rush, I'm sorry, I apologize. So we have a motion and a support. Please call the roll.
Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley, Ms. Watley Seats. Motion passes.
All right, so next up is, it's our high school curriculum. And so I gave you guys a copy from our meeting last week. And if we could have, the person that really did the hard work in creating this come forward so you guys can ask questions or have comments.
Very good. Yes, please.
All right, so if you would just explain our new course catalog, so to speak, for our high school curriculum.
So Dr. Shelton and I worked on, along with some of the teachers, on creating a course guide that follows a little bit more of the standard for what a high schooler would get at the beginning of each year prior to the registration. So we've included a lot of pieces. The beginning is kind of the mandatory stuff, course requirements, the MMC requirements, district policies, things like that. But we have kind of separated it a little differently. You can see in the first couple of pages there is a place for students to kind of keep track of the courses that they've taken, the courses that they've passed, maybe the courses that they're looking to take in their future years. We really want the students to be able to develop SMART goals and work toward having a meaningful learning experience at Benton Harbor High School. So once we get into the course guide itself, you'll see that there is a lot of, there are some changes, for sure. The Michigan Merit Curriculum allows for some fluidity within it, and it really focuses on the idea of integration amongst the different content areas along with the electives. So we really try to maximize the talent that we have at the school right now. We looked at all of the certificates and endorsements and things like that that our teachers currently hold and talked to them and asked them what types of things they felt like they would like to teach, kind of encompassing all of those different pieces for what we already have in our building. And we looked at the needs of the students based on conversations with students, based on test data, things like that. And try to develop some courses that really will engage the students in learning, but we'll also give them all of the different facets that they need in order to be successful in the community, in college, in their career, in whatever they choose to move on post-secondary. So the idea with the Michigan Merit Curriculum is to demonstrate proficiency, which is this piece that's up here now on page 9. The idea of demonstrating proficiency is very different from the traditional idea of 1 year equals 1 credit, right? So the idea of the Michigan Merit Curriculum, and I'm from Florida, so when I came here, I was totally floored by this, and then I heard what it really means, and it blew me away. It's so progressive, and it's great. So the idea is that a student has the ability to have an experience in learning and then demonstrate proficiency with that experience. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have to spend 4 years in English. It means they have to have 4 English experiences in order to demonstrate their proficiency and show that they understand those underlying course standards for each thing. So there are many ways for a student to demonstrate proficiency. Looking at courses and their credit values is one way, but looking at the experience that the students actually have in the classroom and how they can show that they understand these different content areas through, for instance, a CTE course. Mr. Jackson, for instance, in his construction trades course, has 3 different textbooks that he teaches from: a science textbook, a math textbook, and a project textbook. So in addition to getting that elective piece, he's also teaching those students how math in construction is related to math in a classroom, right? So we have really tried to be innovative along with some of the ideas from the teachers and from other people within the school to bring the students kind of some new experiences with the course catalog.
We got questions on the floor. You guys are up here, so. I mean, for the other board members who did not get a chance to speak, there's some new stuff regarding CTE, so we have more CTE classes.
Yes, we do. So we would like to bring back the Allied Health Program. We did have some people from MCTI, MRS, and Ms. Alloyd, who works very closely with our school, come in and look at the equipment that we have. And it looks like we have enough of working equipment to support one course, like one classroom at a time, one classroom lab at a time. We would like to bring back, they called it Cisco before. We want to have some more leniency maybe on who is teaching it. Rather than needing a Cisco person, we can get a computer programmer. We've got many computer programmers in our arsenal already. So we have that. We also have a business applications course where the students would end up with certifications. The idea with the CTE courses is that we would like to have the students have something tangible in their hands when they leave. So an entry-level course for business management applications would include a Microsoft Office Suite certification. We would look at how to get them certified in Google Docs and Sheets and all of that other stuff. The computer programming course would lead them to the certification for those types of things. They would build their own computer, program it, and move forward from there. The Allied Health, we have a few options that we can move into. We can go with a CNA track, where the students would be eligible to test for their CNA at the end. Or we can keep it as an Allied Health, and it would be a precursor to them then going into a technical program, and they would really have a solid foundation of what they would need to be successful in that program. We would also like to bring in commercial art and graphic design, and utilize that along with our media communications to really rebrand the school, use those students to bring people in, to make videos, to post some things online. We have also proposed a journalism course, and the journalism course would be a combination of a digital school newspaper along with the yearbook, and they would work in communication with our graphic design program and our media communications to get out there and go to the community events, go to the sporting events, and then report back and have the ability then to build a yearbook based on yearly experiences and not just pictures, on a page, which is kind of a nice thing. So there's a lot of integration that's happening on this course catalog. We have definitely introduced some really great courses on there. So if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer.
Any questions, Mrs. Bush?
I just wanted to make sure we record her name and thank her.
Yes.
Yes, my name is Lauren Burnett.
Any other questions regarding the agreement?
So the students get this, catalog.
As soon as you guys approve it. Yes, it's actually, there's one piece that is not fully complete. It's the special education services. We wanted to work with Ms. Robbins to make sure that what we state in there is compliant with the Michigan Department of Education. So we built everything, and I should be sitting down with Ms. Robbins either the end of this week or next week to finalize that piece. But as far as the courses go, yes, as soon as we finish with Ms. Robbins, we're ready to post this online and start sending out notifications to start scheduling students.
Sounds exciting.
It's very exciting. I'm excited.
When I saw this,
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
I reflected back to several years ago, not this district. I did have a daughter that did graduate from here, one that graduated from Lakeshore. And when I walked in Lakeshore's doors and seeing this, of course I was excited. And when I walked in the doors and seeing this, I was overwhelmed and very happy, elated to see pathways.
Yes.
Guidance for our kids. Very
Yes.
happy to see that.
Yep, I've been working with the students, and it's definitely something that they want. So we really tried to put that on paper for them.
I think it's a good job because my 9 years on the board, we haven't had this. And so I think what we do now, we're behind the 8 ball, but that's okay. But next year, your students will have their courses by say May, right, or June before they leave school. It's not going to be sent there late, right? So you already know what you're going to do next year.
Right, the idea is to build upon what we have here, but then also have the students select their courses so that their course selections are complete before they leave school. We would be looking at registration probably after spring break rather than in July. So that way we can build a master schedule and actually have the teachers have their teaching assignments before they leave for the year as well, which would give them the summer then to plan for their students.
This also gives our athletes a curriculum too, right? Because if they're going to play the D1 or D2 sports, there's certain requirements that they have to have. So that's in this course catalog as well.
Yes, we have the NCAA standards in there, so that way they know exactly what they need in order to do that.
What's your last name?
Burnett, B-E-R-N-A-T.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Very well
Thank
done.
you.
Okay, so with that being said, may I have a motion? Gotta get to it right quick. So the recommended action is that the Benton Harbor Area School Board of Education approves the Benton Harbor High School course catalog. So may I have a motion for the approval of the Benton Harbor High School course catalog? Gotta turn that mic
Receipts,
up.
Ms. Crowder.
I'm sorry, so,
All right, so we have so it's moved by Ms. Seats and second by Ms. Crowder. Madam Secretary?
Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
yes.
Mr. Bradley, Ms. Watley Seats.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. So,
Congratulations to all the staff that worked on this so hard.
so next up is the elimination of the global dual language and cosmetology. I'll read the facts and analysis. So reason for consideration. The board has the responsibility to assess and evaluate how well program goals are being accomplished and determine the continuation of the program. So the facts and analysis. Benton Harbor Area Schools Global Dual Language Program has been in operation since the 2015-2016 school year. During that time of implementation, it has been a challenge to offer a true global dual language experience because we could not hire staff with dual language certification, and the district could not provide proper services for the program. The students will be absorbed into their respective grade level schools and will have full access to the programming offered at each particular grade level. The cosmetology CTE program has experienced its challenges over the years. Currently, the building is not licensed and will not be able to achieve licensing status for the 2019-2020 year. The staff has developed a number of CTE additions, which will give students the opportunity to receive certifications in each program. We will revisit reinstating the program for the 2021 school year. Recommended action that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education approves the elimination of the Global Dual Language Program and the Cosmetology Program at Benton Harbor High School.
So moved.
All right, so I have a motion from Mrs. Rush. May I have a support? All right, supported by Mrs. Watley Seats. Any questions, comments, concerns before we call the roll? Okay, and one thing, Mrs. Robinson, since we're still under the consent agreement, we want to make sure that all of these items you go back and approve. So then we're legit, all right? All right, so Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley, Ms. Watley Seats.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. All right, so we have for the 2019-2020 school year calendar, we need a approval. So reason for consideration, the board shall annually approve the district's calendar and shall approve the 5-year common calendar. So facts and analysis. Benton Harbor Area Schools collaborated with the Benton Harbor Education Association to develop the district's 2019-2020 calendar. The calendar reflects 180 days, at least the minimum 1,098 instructional hours, 185 teacher days, and 30 hours of district-provided professional development. Recommended action that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education approves the 2019-2020 calendar. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Buchanan, may I have support?
Support.
Supported by Mrs. Crowder. Any questions, comments, concerns before we call the roll? All right, Madam Secretary?
Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley, Ms. Watley Seats.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next, we have International Center for Leadership and Education, Leadership Training. The contact person for that is Mrs. Robinson. Reason for consideration, to Purchases in a single transaction that are in excess of the dollar amount permitted by the state statute shall require the approval of the board prior to purchase. The Thoughtful Classroom is approved teacher evaluation tool, and as an effort to continue provided support, training, and modeling to our building leadership, this level of support will help to increase technical capacity around this tool. There is a need for continuous leadership training in the areas of behavioral management, organizational leadership, intervention programs, implementation, instructional leadership and teaching, and strategic planning processes and timelines also linked to the organizational leadership. Facts and analysis. The International Center for Leadership and Education, ICLE, a division of Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, will assist our district by providing leadership coaching that will be focused on not only building the skills of the leadership team, but also based on the specific needs of students and staff to increase rigor, relevance, and relationships for all students. Coaching will include establishing consistent processes and procedures, ongoing planning and implementation monitoring, providing the resources and motivation to ensure that decision-making is supported by quality data systems and analysis. Re-envisioning the learning environment, recognizing the need to enhance instructional effectiveness to keep pace with changing economic pressures, technologies, demographics, and social structures. Understanding and applying the rigor relevance framework as a common language for curriculum instruction and assessment. This is a sole source purchase as it is a division of Houghton Mifflin Harcourt to support the Houghton Mifflin program. Total cost for continuous leadership training is $174,960. Recommended action, that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education approves the purchase of training and coaching through International Center for Leadership in Education for the amount of $174,960. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Report.
All right, moved by Mrs. Rush, supported by Ms. Buchanan. Any questions, comments, concerns before we call the roll? All right, Madam Secretary.
Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley, Ms. Watley Sees.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so motion passes. Now we're down to our reconfiguration plan. And reason for consideration, the board shall consider not only the number of children whose educational needs must be met, but also the physical requirements of the program and deems best suited to meet those needs. Each school building site shall provide suitable accommodations to carry out the educational program of the school, including provisions for the disabled pursuant to law and regulation. Facts and analysis. In order to meet the physical needs of students and to maximize building space, the following changes have been recommended for the 2019-2020 school year. That Benton Harbor Area School Central Administration, currently located at 1995 Union, will be relocated to the third floor of Benton Harbor High School. 2 rooms located on the first floor will be used for the receptionist area and the registrar's office. Next, that STEAM at MLK, which serves grades 4th through 5th, located at 750 East Britton Avenue, will be relocated to 1995 Union and will return to its original name of Fairplain East Elementary School. And next, the Technology Department, located at 750 East Britton Avenue, will be relocated to the Cosmetology Building behind the high school. Recommended action, that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education approves the 2019-2020 reconfiguration plan. May I have a motion?
Moved.
All right, moved by Mrs. Denise Watley Seats. May I have support?
Support.
Supported by Ms. Buchanan. Any questions, comments, concerns regarding the reconfiguration plan for the 2019-2020 school year? All right. Madam Secretary?
Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Crowder, Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley, Ms. Watley Seeds. Motion passes.
Okay, discussion items. Any discussion items? All right, on to other, and we have a motion that's under other that Mrs. Denise Watley Seats will speak to.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to the district to add Patricia Rush as an additional insured for her services at the district office until such time a new CFO is appointed. Mrs. Rush has offered and has done a lot of work for us.
All right,
Do I
so,
have a-
yes, ma'am.
do I have a
I'm trying to
motion?
turn my phone off.
You made the motion.
Yes, you made the motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Supported by,
Supported by Ms. Crowder.
supported by Ms. Crowder. I was trying to make sure I got my phone. All right, any questions, comments, concerns regarding the motion? All right, Madam Secretary.
Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley, Ms. Watley Seeds.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. So on to board member comments and announcements. We'll start with our interim superintendent, Mrs. Robinson.
Thank you. So the only comment I have is just to thank you, board, for your support as we kind of maneuver through all of the changes and all of the challenges that we're facing with a skeleton of a staff. So we appreciate that, and we're just looking forward to moving forward with opening up the next year with smooth process, smooth transitions, and staffing in place. I am speaking that into existence, so we will have a full staff.
Okay. All right. All right. Mrs. Crowder.
Just want to thank the community for coming out again. We appreciate your voices. Thank you.
Just want to say thank you as well to our community, to all the teachers that are here. We appreciate you. We need you. We need more of you here. Get them together. Bring them back every meeting. That's what we would like to see. And I thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it.
All right. Mrs. Rush.
I would just like to say that there's staff here too to thank for your support. And you know, we don't have exactly the clear future yet, but everybody is working really well together. The board is unified, and we are working extremely, I think, well with the district staff. And so I am very optimistic that we're going to have a good year.
Did you turn it on? Ms. Buchanan? Here you go. Let's grab this one.
I would like to thank the district too for coming out and lending their voices, and don't stop because we need your help. And I would like for this board to know that, I would like for the community to know that I've been on the board. When I first got on this board, it was good. But the members on this board now are together. You know, you can, when you go in the room, you can feel the vibe. They think like you think. Somebody say something that you wanted to say and didn't say it. But when they had the awards assembly in May, I would like for this board to give a 110%. It was so amazing to see, I think her name, Jillian Bond, Prentice Magruder, Victoria Sally. They handled that award in the gym, wonderfully. And they had the kids come up, and you know, it really hurt me. I got a call from this one lady named Pat. She said, Mr. Buchanan, you don't remember me, blah, blah. She said, well, I'm gonna send you some money. I said, that's what we need. Don't send it to me. Send it to either Steve Mitchell or Joe Taylor. If you send it to me, I might spend it, but you know, we have people in the community. I know they did. We had a couple of young men out there and I'm gonna get this letter going, that we need them back in this district. And stop all this climbing on each other's back, hitting each other in the head with the hammer, and let's get these people in the right position so we can get our kids back in the school, in the community. I told the lady, she hung up on me. I said, I don't want to hear that. What they gonna do? I said, wait and see, watch the news. Bring your kid back, her kid go to all class. So, like, how you expect the community to grow and you ain't doing nothing? But we should have this room should be full right now. You know, it should be full with people out there. Education, tourism, thing, you know, it's a young man that, he said, excuses are tools and compliments. I used to get so sick of hearing him say that, but he tells the truth. But I'm working on something. We got people that we need, like this board. When I go to the company meetings, it's a lot of love around. Pastor Joe, I stopped by Joe's house the other day and he was like, man, got a call from here, from there. We're not gonna lose people. With the help of the man above, we're gonna make it. Thank you. And keep praying for us.
Thank you, ma'am. So just thank for everyone who constantly support. Some of us have a meeting tomorrow at the governor's office, and so we're going to continue to bring back good news, right? We fought, and it's a good fight to fight, and we're fighting for kids. We're fighting for community, and we just thank you for your continued support, and go Tigers. May I have a motion to close tonight's meeting? All right, so we have, we're moved by Mrs. Watley Seeds. May I have a support?
Support.
All right, supported by Ms. Buchanan. Meeting adjourned.